Don't ever overspend on anything that don't put money in your pocket.
Um, that I need to work for it if I wanted it. I would need it to survive.
So growing up, my father did not talk about bills or money. He did give us an allowance. Because of my mother, she spoke about always having mad money. Try and have a nest egg or savings that, whoever your future partner may not know about. She talked about having things in your name and why that was important.
Very good. Because right now, I'm a penny pincher. So I would always have. Do you?
Well, two things. It made me never want to get a credit card. I waited until I was like graduating undergrad to get a credit card. Mm-hmm. It made me fearful of putting my money in banks.
Try to save more than I spend. Invest what I can.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Simone Mouchette. I am the founder of Resilient Young Minds, and I welcome you to our Financial Literacy Live workshop today. For those of you joining us for the first time, Resilient Young Minds is a nonprofit 501c3 organization that serves adolescents ages 13 to 17 in Brooklyn who've experienced trauma and teach them resilience on how to overcome them on 3 levels: the personal, professional, and social levels. This year, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we could not have our normal programming. And so we started to have these community conversations where we're highlighting different traumas that we all go through but don't usually talk about, and create safe spaces for us to have these conversations, learn and grow from each other. So today I am so excited that we are talking about money. A lot of us went through a lot of financial struggles this year due to the pandemic, losses, whether we lost people, whether we lost jobs. Just, it's been a tough time. And a lot of us don't get certain types of education when it comes to money, especially people in communities of color or low socioeconomic backgrounds. And that almost puts us at a disadvantage. So today we have a treat. We want to share some of that information with you today. Some of the information you're going to get today, people pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get. So you're in for a treat. Take out your notepads, share a friend, share. Tell someone to come on and watch to get this information. So right now I'm going to call on our secretary, Janelle, to introduce our expert for today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our third workshop in our series. We have done a women's health workshop in October. Our November workshop was on men's health, and now our December workshop is all about the money, bringing financial literacy to communities of color. And I'm excited about this one, even to get some financial advice from myself. Our speaker today, Mr. Nick Stewart, he is well versed in personal money and asset management. He was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. He's an entrepreneur and financial industry professional for the past 11 years. He was appointed to regional vice president for the past 3 years, and he's fully licensed to service families financially in 15 states across the country. So like Simone said, you're in for a real treat today. People pay big bucks for this kind of advice. He's currently expanding into other communities to service families as well. And so without further ado, get a pen, get something to write on. This is advice you want to definitely record and return to, especially when planning your financial life for 2021 after everything we've been through this year. So without further ado, I introduce Mr. Nick Stewart to bring us his presentation.
Good afternoon. Very excited to be on this afternoon. Thank you so much for the Rhyme team to, introduce me and have me host this segment for this afternoon on financial literacy. There's a lot of information that we have to unpack. So thank you very much for this opportunity just to be able to share what I've learned over the years on maybe some of the pitfalls that some people go through when it comes to money mistakes or not understanding what to do exactly with their money. I do want to hit on some bullet points on some actionable steps that you can take to be able to put yourself in a more positive direction when it comes to you and your family financially. And I'm excited about being able to go through this information. So let's get started. So just to jump right in, money management mistakes, not understanding how money works. So it's really important to understand the difference between a formal education and a financial education. You can often find that most people that get a formal education can make a decent living, sometimes maybe even make big money, six-figure incomes based on the degrees and the certifications and acquisitions that they've acquired. But it's most important to have an education on money because we've also seen some people that maybe have grown a business and lost everything because maybe they didn't have the understanding on what not to do and also what to do. Huge difference. Let's move forward. So why are people having so many financial challenges? Most people today don't get a financial education. So if we're really honest about it, most, banks, insurance companies, credit card companies are not sitting down with us at our kitchen table to explain exactly how things work. So oftentimes most people don't know what exactly they're getting involved in. Secondly, having a financial plan is very important. We would never go somewhere that we aren't sure where exactly we're going and not use a map or not use directions. So it's important to have a written plan, not just maybe ideas you've thought about, which is always great, but it's important to have things written down. And lastly, having a financial coach. It's very important to understand that it is a very professional industry, that it requires some advice, some expertise, some education on the subject matter to make sure that you're getting the right proposals and the right strategies and right plans towards accomplishing your family's goals. So without those things, this results in serious challenges for Main Street families all across America. So real quickly, why 10 major causes of failure? Number one, some people just don't take the time to learn or plan. Like, let's be honest, as adults, sometimes we grow a lot of pride, procrastination, we're caught up, we're busy, we're just running the rat race of life. So don't make the time to plan the longest vacation that we're ever going to take, which is retirement or that lifestyle that you would like to live without you working for money, but money working for you. Number two, don't control debt, which becomes a habit. Nobody wants financial cancer. Everybody wants to get rid of it. Nobody wants to acquire a lot of debt and never get rid of it. So it's important to be able to have discipline in that area. Number three, paying ourselves first. A lot of people get caught up in paying for their lifestyle first and paying for the current situation, paying bills, etc. So it's what you keep, not what you make. There's some people that make very big income, but they keep very little of it. So they're still living paycheck to paycheck, just at a higher level. Number 4, as I talked about, not using a professional money coach. They try to do it themselves. Imagine you had a real serious medical issue going on and you decided, you know what, let me just buy a kit from CVS or Walgreens and try to do it myself. Let me try to do surgery myself. I mean, it sounds crazy, but when it comes to money, most people are like, yeah, I'm gonna figure it out. I'll do it on my own, which causes a lot of mistakes that compound over a period of time. Number 5, not accounting for taxes, inflation. We can't do anything about those things because they're always going to exist, but it's important to account for it to make sure that we have the right strategy to prepare for what we're up against. Number 6, not generating enough income. It's been a very turbulent year for a lot of people, where many people have been forced to reconsider the way that they make their money. They have to look at multiple streams of income, maybe working another part-time job or doing a gig or maybe a side hustle to be able to provide some extra income to help them move towards their financial goals. Number 7, not investing logically, but emotionally. We see a lot of people that plan, make a financial plan, and then when something comes up that's emotional, they make a short-term decision without really accounting for the long-term situation. So it's really important to understand, sticking to the plan and sticking to the game plan that you have in place. Number 8, not accounting for longevity. Everyone wants to live a really, really long time and have a great life ahead. Nobody wants to die too soon. So when it comes to longevity, it's crazy to think that you can live a really long time and outlive your money. So how comfortable is life really at that point? Number 9, not protecting their assets. It's very important to understand wealth principles and protecting all our assets. As we acquire assets, we need to protect what we have. So insurances, wills, annuities, trust, etc. It's important to be able to build inheritances for not just for ourselves in the future, but for our family and generations to come. Number 10, don't do what the 5%ers do. A lot of people listen to other people that have no financial experience, that also are average financially and maybe aren't on track to hit their goals. So it's important to listen to the right people and make sure that you seek financial advice of, the direction that you're looking to go. Make sure that it matches up with what you're doing as far as your strategy. Let's move forward. So how does life look today? Let's take a quick snapshot of what's going on in our country right now. So more than 53% of Americans say they get anxious just thinking about their personal finances. That's according to CNBC. Roughly 50 million in the United States are underinsured with an average life insurance gap of about 200,000. So a lot of people are underinsured according to Forbes. The average US household carries a credit card balance of about $6,800. So most people have, a decent amount of credit card debt. We're not even talking about student loans, medical debt, and other type of bills, just credit card bills. So if you personally don't have $6,800 in debt, that means your next door neighbor has about 12,000, right? Because it's an average. So you want to think about the fact that some people have debt at a higher level. Some people have done a great job paying down their debt. The whole point is to be debt free. And lastly, over a third of Americans are afraid of a purchase of just $100 that will max out their credit card, according to CNBC. That's unfortunate that some people are on that limited of a budget where they're afraid of just a purchase of $100. So this is what is going on in our country today. So let's talk a couple of bullet points on exactly some ideas on what you can do to control your finances and some things that you can't control. So number one, the future of Social Security. We have no idea what's going to happen in the future when it comes to Social Security. So it's important that we secure our own personal savings for retirement. You want to think about retirement as, so let's say, for example, that you're imagining your retirement as a gymnasium, right? And there are light switches that are attached to the wall, which will determine how bright your gymnasium is. So the more light switches that you have available and constructed into your gymnasium is the brighter that your retirement is going to be, in a sense, right? So you don't want to have income just coming from just one area. You want to have income coming from assets, coming from your retirement savings, coming from Social Security, hopefully, if you still get a pension, different areas where you'll be able to pull income from for savings for retirement. Your employer, sometimes your employer is going to make big decisions that really don't include you and don't play to your advantage, unfortunately. We've seen that happen time and time again this year, where there's a lot of companies that are, really struggling right now and trying to do their best to move forward, but dealing with the global pandemic has really set them back financially. So it's important to always consider other streams of income. Taxes, we can't do anything about that. It's important to always analyze and evaluate your tax situation just to find ways where you can reduce taxes. So you do want to speak to an accountant or a tax advisor, a professional in that area who can advise you on your particular situation. Inflation, the average inflation in our country is about, between 2 and 3%, usually closer to 3%. So, we can't do anything about that. Things are always going to get more expensive, right? So we have to look at maximizing savings so we can afford things in the future, dealing with rising costs. So again, we have to save more. And lastly, the risk of a single investment. It's important to never have all our eggs in one basket. You always want to have multiple areas where you have a really diversified portfolio, diversified investment choices, and a diversification on things that you do to be able to play offense and move your family forward. So as we move forward, what I referenced before is that, it's unfortunate that most people don't plan to fail, right? Nobody says, yeah, I'm excited about failing financially, but it happens because they fail to plan. So most people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. And what that means essentially is that, how wise is it to take a road trip without a roadmap or a GPS? So we all know where we are. We all have an idea of where we want to go, but it's important to have a very bullet pointed game plan on how exactly you're going to accomplish that. Because if you ask most people, how are you going to do that? How are you going to get there? They're probably going to say, I don't know. So it's important to have a very specific plan on where you would like to go. So of course, you want to sit down with a financial professional, make sure that you get a financial needs analysis, which is a GPS that can show you where you are, show you where you want to get to, and give you the strategy that's necessary. So thinking about that concept, how many people could benefit from understanding how important it is to have a financial plan? Number one, the education on money. And then number two, actually actionable, actually putting together a plan to be able to move forward towards their goals. Let's move to the next slide. So essentially, when it comes to some principles on money, the 3 accounts you need is to always have an emergency fund. What an emergency fund is, an emergency fund is pretty much your expenses for about 6 to 9 months. Okay, 6 to 9 months worth of expenses. We've seen crazy things happen, like government shutdowns, like a pandemic, like things that really affect what we're able to do when it comes to going out and making money. So you always want to have like a rainy day fund, right? When a rainy day happens, because they always come, it's either something just happens, you're going through something now, or something is on the way. So you really want to always be prepared, right? You always want to really be prepared no matter what it is. If you don't need it and there is no emergencies, then great. That's even better. Short-term savings, that's more in terms of things that you would like to buy in a relatively short space of time, within the next 6 months, year to 5 years, a car, a house, maybe investments, maybe investing into a business, doing different things that you need to save up some capital. You need to save up some money to be able to acquire those things. You want to have accounts that give you leverage to be able to help you do that. And then long-term savings, we always want to, be planning for retirement. We want to look at kids' education if that's applicable. You want to look at, long-term investments in things that you can utilize to make sure that you're not only focused on you trading your time for money, that you got money making you money. Okay. So it's important to understand some of those principles to be able to create a great, solid financial plan for yourself. Let's move forward. 3 D's of investing. A good way to keep your focus on goals is to remember the 3 D's of investing. It's dollar cost averaging. What that means is you paying yourself, right? Making sure that you're saving money towards your future. Discipline, right? Staying consistent, not just doing it one time and then falling off the wagon. It's important to stay consistent and being able to consistently do what you need to do to be able to get yourself towards those goals. Diversification also, as I mentioned before, just being able to not have all of your investments leveraged in one area. You want to look at different ways of making money, of investing, etc., so that you can move your family forward. So really quickly, let's jump into a concept of how most people deal with their savings and most people deal with the bank. So, if you invested $10,000 into a bank account, and we know banks don't pay us 4%, but this is just an example. This is example. So let's say the bank, your local bank, was giving you 4%. That means you would be earning about $400 on that $10,000 for the year, right? $400. So you would be at $10,400. But let's not forget, you pay taxes on anything you earn. And there's also inflation. So after taxes and inflation, your true buying power is only about $9,900, which is less than you originally invested. So you take a look at, savings vehicles and things that give us very small rates of return. We have to consider, like, can we really afford a guarantee or such a small rate of return for areas to help us move forward towards our goals? So don't pay the high cost of waiting. If your goal is to save $500,000 for retirement at age 67, look at the difference that time makes. So time and money definitely go hand in hand. Okay, so if you began your monthly savings at 25, you would only need to save about $89 a month towards hitting a $500,000 goal. But you delayed that. Let's say you just procrastinated for 10 years. You would have to do almost about 2 times more to be able to hit the same goal. 45, you would 7 times more to do the same thing, $602. And somebody that delayed, unfortunately, to maybe their 50s and said, you know what, wow, retirement is right around the corner, I better start planning. They would need to save $1,900 a month, 21 times more than the original amount if they had started sooner, right? So it's important to understand that, waiting and delaying is only going to hurt us, and procrastinating when it comes to saving on and putting away our money is very, very important to avoid, right? To avoid procrastination and stay consistent when it comes to savings. Let's move forward. So let's quote one of the smartest mans on the planet. He said that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world, He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. So it's really important just to understand a couple of things about compound interest. You know, if we talk really quickly, like we just talked about the bank, so it's really important to understand that, you know, let's say some people get a credit card, right? Like with their local bank, or they just get a credit card in general. And the average credit card rate in our country is 18 to 24%. So you think about, that's what we have to pay. That's what we have to pay to them based on us using their money on some plastic. But when they pay us, we get paid less than 3, less than 2, less than 1. So wow, you take a look at that exchange, it's like who's that really helping, right? So it's important to understand that. You know, you take a look at car loans. Car loans are actually something that does take away the financial progression of a lot of families, and they don't even realize it. They don't even realize it. So I'll give you a quick example. Let's say, for example, because you want to understand that credit does affect the loan that you're able to take from a company, whether it's a credit card or a car or a home, etc. So let's just talk about an average car of about 20,000, 20 to 25,000. Side A, person A had a 730 credit score, so they qualified for a 2% interest rate. Their payment for the car was $368. Side B, their credit score was 599, so the interest rate they could qualify for was 14.99, and their payment was $513. So when you take a look at how much they each paid for the car, side A, person A, paid $24,000 for the car. Side B, person B with the lower credit score or higher interest, paid $9,600 more for the same vehicle just because of their financial situation. So you can't tell me that not understanding money and the terms that we sign up for when it comes to car loans, student loans, credit cards, etc., don't make a big difference. Let's move forward. Life insurance. So it's really important to understand there's many different options when it comes to life insurance. But before we go through this example, you know, it's one of the easiest ways to transfer wealth to our family, you know, where there's nobody that gets out of life alive. So we're all going to die. So it's important to have protection on one of the biggest assets that we have, which is not a car or home. It's our ability to produce in this world, right? Our ability to provide income to our family and take care of our family. So it's important to understand, you know, a couple concepts like DIME, D-I-M-E. It stands for debt, income, mortgage, and education. Just, you know, kind of understanding a couple of components that we provide for our family or that we pay for. You want to look at, you know, at least having 5 to 10 times your income in life insurance protection, just so you're protecting your assets. So God forbid that something happened to you, your family, their standard of living is at least the same for 10 to 15 years. So, you know, really understanding, you know, a financial plan and a financial coach towards your family's goals and dreams is important. And, you know, life insurance agents, with all due respect, a lot of time life insurance agents sell life insurance based on what they learn from the life insurance company. But in this case, we're going to talk about it from a perspective of understanding what would be most advantageous for us and for our families. So in this case, on the left side here, we see an example of a cash value whole life insurance policy. The family was covered for 100,000. The husband, wife was covered for 100,000. And by 65, they had a cash value that was almost 76,000, almost 80,000. Right? So that what they're paying for provides them those two benefits. But unfortunately, there's two major tricks and traps that some people skip over. the fact that if you want to use any money out of your cash, you have to take it as a loan from the insurance company. And a loan comes with interest, not towards you or your account, but towards the company as a fee. So you have to borrow your own money and pay it back to the insurance company. So that's never a benefit to you and your family. The second thing is, God forbid you passed away and the insurance company had to pay out the $100,000, they keep all the money in the savings account. They keep that $76,000. So the family gets one or the other. They never get both. So, that just doesn't really sound too great if you would ask me, right? So let's look at an option that we have, which is buying term and invest in the difference for our families. Okay. Buying term allows us to get more value for less money. So I don't know about you, but I think it makes sense to get more value for something and pay less for it than the opposite, right? So we got this family a situation where they were paying $80 for $250,000 in coverage. And the savings, if you look at the next side, is that the savings side, the $145 that was saved, if you could just click that for me. Can you just click the slide, please? So the $145 that was saved, you can put that separate from the insurance policy, so that the family has an opportunity to own both. They can own their insurance coverage and they're owning their money, and the insurance company or investment company would never keep their money. The whole point is to be able to put families in a position where they can have more assets, right? They can have more. And then you want to get to a position where we don't need to pay for life insurance because we have enough money. If you had $500,000 in the bank, $1 million in the bank, would you need to buy money if you had money? I don't think so. So it's important to understand becoming self-insured over a period of time, as opposed to paying the life insurance for your entire life. Who is that the advantage to? Let's move forward. So really quickly, just a quick viewpoint on what your financial house should look like. Foundation, protecting your income, term life insurance, budget, emergency fund, a will, making sure that you have strategies to pay down your debt. You're in a position where you're actually funding your retirement, which is the next slide. And then college education, if that's college savings, for potential assets, asset things that you have to pay for in the future that might cost a lot of money. And then on the top, you want to think about goals and dreams. But we live in a society where people build their financial house upside down, and a lot of the time have vacations and baby showers and weddings and other things paid for without the right financial plan. So it's always important to think about having things in order and having your priorities straight. Let's move forward. Next slide. So you can do it. Just a sense of encouragement. Maybe you felt like I was beating you up throughout the presentation. Maybe there's things that you relate to, or maybe that you've thought about before, or maybe things that you just didn't know. So you want to think about the fact that, how many people could really benefit from information like this. And, this was just a brief segment because, we wanted to unpack obviously a lot of information in a short space of time, just to give you a couple viewpoints on how to put together the right financial plan. Here's a question. How often do you think about money? How often do you think about money? So the path to financial independence starts with understanding basic concepts and then implementing them. Winning the financial war is a result of winning tiny daily battles day to day, making the right decision, not overspending or over shopping or, acquiring things that you can't buy twice or buy 3 times. Because I heard a long time ago, if you can't buy it twice or 3 times, then you can't afford it. So just applying little principles that you can hold on to be able to make the right decisions and put your family in a better position. If you put together a simple plan and follow it, you'll be amazed at the progress that you make and how you can move your family forward. And just wrapping up, just some of the things that we've talked about or other talking points that maybe you would love to get in contact with me to be able to speak on, or speak for your organization, is, on debt topics, retirement concepts, life insurance basics, which we spoke about briefly, how money works, auto, home insurance. Nobody wants to overspend in those areas, legal services. It's important to be able to understand that there's a lot of different ways that you can look at to free up money that you're already spending, to be able to reallocate that money towards areas that maybe you haven't been paying attention to. So there's my contact number. Maybe if you have questions or comments, there's my email and contact information, as well as this wonderful Rhyme team has done a phenomenal job putting together this segment and allowing me to bless this call and just share, some of my expertise and what I've learned and what I've been able to help families with over the years of working in this field. So thank you.
All right, Mr. Stewart. That was really sound financial advice. I have a few takeaways for myself, which is I definitely need to come up with a financial game plan because I have none. I love the fact that you pointed out about taking the time to pay yourself first. That really, really resonated with me. And then investing logically and not emotionally, because I know a lot of us do that. What I found particularly interesting is that half of us in this country are anxious thinking about money. Which means, I don't know, maybe we're doing something wrong. I don't know, but half of us in this country have anxiety about money. And then an actionable next step for myself is I love the 3 accounts. I've never thought of that. Having one as an emergency fund, a short-term and a long-term savings. Generally, most of us just have a checking, a savings account, that's it. Maybe one other, but not deliberately thinking about having 3 accounts for 3 different purposes. So those were my takeaways, and I would love to talk to you more about that. But at this time, we're going to open it up for questions. I know I'm going to be a little selfish for a quick second and ask my own question, which is, okay, so I'm 42 right now. How much would I need to save roughly monthly looking at retirement? What would you say?
Well, that's a great question. One of the things to take a look at when thinking about how much needed to save, you want to think about what's the goal, like how much do you need to save altogether to be able to live the way you would like to live? And then you kind of work your way backwards, right? To be able to break that down to see, okay, where am I right now? How correct am I driving down the road? If I need to, make a left turn or a right turn or make some adjustments, that you want to figure out, what's your overall goal for the long-term situation, and then work your way backwards to figure out on a monthly basis, which I would love to do for you at a different time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Backwards planning. I'll do that as a teacher too, by the way, so I might be good at that. All right, another question is, what was your first encounter or lesson you have learned about money?
Well, there was a lot. I mean, just not even just my own personal experiences and, just not understanding certain things, when I think back, you think about student loans. A lot of the time we just sit down and we're just signing papers and we don't really understand. We just know we got to get in school. We got to start school, but we don't really know. We don't really know what we're signing up for. You know what I mean? We don't know what the interest rates are. We don't know how it affects us over a long period of time. But, we're kind of just following a conditioning pattern without really truly understanding or, having the hindsight to be able to take a look at other options that might be able to benefit us in different ways. I've made mistakes when it comes to, cars, not waiting and saving enough money and trying to rush and go get a car. And then, being in a situation where it's like, I got a higher interest rate than I really wanted to get, but I'm happy I got the car, but I'm paying a lot more than I would like to pay. You know what I mean? So just little life lessons that happen along the way. And of course, hearing other experiences and seeing other experiences from other clients, gives you a lot of things to learn from, and being able to take counsel in that wisdom from learning from other people's mistakes.
Okay, great. I have another question. What about someone who has 2 jobs, right? How could they develop a savings plan around 2 incomes? Because generally speaking, when people have more than 1 job, it feels like you have more money. And so you may not be thinking about a savings plan. How could someone develop a savings plan with more than 1 income?
That's a great question. I think when it comes to, taking a look at multiple streams of income, or getting a pay raise, maybe, which is, another stream of income, a lot of people spend more money. So they start making more money, and it's just like, yep, now I could buy this, I can buy this, I can buy this, instead of sticking to the same game plan that they were on, and then saving that extra money that they're making. Some people try to upgrade their lifestyle a little bit too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And, they have certain things out of priority, with all due respect. They're maybe paying, lots of money for, for a car, or financing entertainment like a TV or things like that, and don't really have a savings plan put together. So just really making sound financial decisions as you move forward. Everyone has a goal of putting themselves in making more money and doing better financially. So as we do that, as we move up up the ranks when it comes to how we do financially, it's important to make even stronger decisions, because now you have more money to play with, right? So sometimes you think, especially when you start making really good money, you start spending, in a way, and creating habits that aren't good for the future.
Yeah. I guess another question: how did you get into finance wellness? And I'm gonna follow that question up with my own question. Where does the passion for communities of color really trying to get into those communities and bring financial literacy? Where does that passion come from? So how did you get into finance wellness, and why communities of color?
Great question. So if I'm being very honest, there was a friend of mine that I played football with in high school that started working with the company that I'm involved with now. And I saw a message that he put on social media, on Facebook, that said, super excited to start working with a financial company. Let's get this money. And so I sent him a message like, hey, bro, what's up? And when can I come to the office? And basically invited myself to an office just so I could find out a little bit more. Also, something that's really important is to understand where you come from, right? And to be able to watch, my parents, ascend to pretty decent jobs and make pretty decent money, and still not be able to live life on their terms, right? And not be able to do things, to be okay, like, and not, ever miss a meal type of thing, but not be able to afford the things that you want to, and have, extra money to save and things like that. Is important to understand that we got to make adjustments and learn different things that maybe we didn't understand before, and not make mistakes, etc. So, to answer the second part of your question, I think when it really became real for me, because, oftentimes when we get involved in things, we're maybe just thinking about ourselves. And, of course, it's cool to be able to make money and do something that's in a professional arena. But I think what really strikes the nerve, or hits the chord the most, is the fact that sitting down with people that are 2 times, 3 times my age, that have no idea about planning for retirement, are knocking on the door and age-wise of, you know, being close to the retirement age, so to speak, and never hearing of things like the rule of 72 or how money works, or, you know, debt stacking, or, you know, how to get out of just different concepts that they can utilize to be able to understand how to hit their financial goals. So, you know, being able to work directly in homes and with families and seeing how dramatic it was that there's no, you know, plan, there's no education, people are being ripped off significantly by insurance companies, by investment companies, not really understanding the plans they have at work, just kind of saying to their neighbor, like, hey, what did you sign up for? And then signing up for the same thing, you know, without really understanding how it affects them individually with them and their family. So just, you know, being able to, you know, take all those things in consideration.
Cool. We have a question for married couples. This question comes from Evelyn. Hey, Evie. Any advice for married couples and how to financially prepare for the future?
Awesome, great question. You know, of course, it's really important to always think about ways to build assets, right? Whether that's acquiring a property, you know, taking advantage of accounts through work, like a 401k, you know, being able to have personal investments, being, you know, disciplined with money, and also protecting the assets that we have. Because what we see a lot of the times, especially with married couples, is that if, let's say, the husband makes 50,000 and the wife makes 50,000, God forbid something happens to either of them, the household and the standard of living goes from 100,000 to 50,000, and it's impossible to live the same way on half the money. So it's really, really important to have the right asset protection, but also asset acquisition as you work to make more money, build savings, build freedom, and, you know, have investments working for you and your family.
Okay, one last question. When is a good time to get life insurance?
Wow, that's a great question. Well, when it comes to life insurance, I think answering that question, you want to ask yourself, you know, do we care about our family, right? So, you know, when do you care about your family? We always care about our family. Nobody wants to, you know, put their family in a position where they can inherit debt from you or have to be burdened for paying for a funeral. So, you know, of course, if there's other responsibilities like having young children, you know, having a home, having a big income, people that rely on your income, of course, you, especially those people, 1,000% need to have the most asset protection as quickly as possible, because it's important. Also, another point is that when you think about life insurance, how is the cost of life insurance determined? It's determined by two things. It's determined by your age and also by your medical situation, right? And as we get older, we're not typically getting healthier, right? We kind of deteriorate as we get older. And also the price, the cost of the policy will also get more expensive. So if you ask me, if something gets more expensive the longer you wait to get it, does it make sense to wait, or should you get it right now? So that's how I would answer that question.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much for all the sound advice. Right now, we are going to transition a little bit to our raffle winner. At the end of every segment, we do a raffle for a free prize. So I'm gonna hand it over to Simone, our vice president. Sorry, our president. I'm thinking about Kyrian, to introduce how we're gonna go about doing the raffle. Thank you so much, Mr. Stewart.
It was my pleasure. My pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Awesome. That was amazing. Thank you, Janelle, for your reflections. You really pulled out some key points that I think everyone was able to be blessed with some type of knowledge. So thank you all for that. Right now is our raffle. So every time we do this live, we want to raffle off a prize to the people that come on and support us and are listening in. And it's just to spread some love and kindness. So you're getting information, a safe space to talk about things that we don't normally talk about, and some love. So this time we are raffling off a brand new rhyme t-shirt that says "I'm so resilient." All right. That's what you're going to get just for participating and engaging with us. And they are designed by one of our panelists for the next segment, Miss Evelyn Jones of Creativity Tees. I think I messed it up, but she's going to come on and tell you about it. And she designed these shirts that you are going to win today. So I'm going to bring in Karian, our vice president, to tell us who the winner is. Now, if you were not engaged in the chat asking questions and things of that nature, then I'm sorry you were not entered in the raffle, and that's okay. But we're going to have our second segment at 2:15. And if you can join in and participate, and you'll have a second chance to win. So Karian, if you can come on in and tell us who is our raffle winner for today. Karian, you on mute.
I apologize for that. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm currently spinning the wheel. And the winner is Miss Evelyn S. Jones.
Oh gosh, Evelyn! She wore her old shirt. She said she didn't want to give it to someone else.
Okay, so I will spin it again. Amelia Thompson.
Amelia Thompson, you have won a rhyme shirt. Please inbox us your address so we can get it to you as soon as possible. Congratulations. Thank you for supporting us. So right now we're going to go on a brief little commercial break, and we're going to come back at 2:00 to start our Speak Up, Speak Out, which I'm excited. I'll be facilitating. We have 3 amazing panelists that are going to give their stories on what they didn't learn about finances, how that impacted their life, how it may have caused or traumas, and how they overcame it, and some of the knowledge that they acquired along the way. They're being so kind to share that knowledge with us today. So please, please, please share, share, share. If you know somebody, hit them up. Tell them to log on, because this is information that they need to hear that's going to bless them. And don't be selfish. Tell somebody else to watch too. All right. So we'll be back at I'll say 2:05. We advertised it for 2:15. So we'll say we ended a little early. So we'll say 2:05. Take a water break, an eye screen break. You're going to watch some videos about Resilient Young Minds. And we'll be back at 2:05. So tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And we're live on YouTube and Facebook. We moving up.
Don't forget it. Love is their own happiness.
Malcolm X.
What? He's not an author. He wrote a book. Alice Haley wrote the book.
No. That is true.
Are y'all crazy? Stop dropping it like that. Wait, no, sorry.
Mentor was amazing. But it was all fun, and then also very, very serious at times when it was time to be serious, and it's also about the exposure. Like it's so much. It's like it's hard to put it all in just a few words. It's like an unbelievable experience that you just gotta experience to understand.
Like on yesterday, I found out something with my sister, and it made me want to be here for her.
Yeah, so I agree with this. I think trauma is a life-changing experience, and it's something that's probably going to affect you for the rest of your life.
I think my favorite part of the retreat so far was the questions where we ripped up our answers. And it was really cool because I felt that was the part where we all started really opening up, and you could feel it because the questions were digging a little deeper, and you could just like feel the mood shift, but also feel it shift into a place of trust where we could all get into our feelings more.
I really enjoyed our experience here at the Rhyme Retreat because on our way here, I wasn't in a really good mood. I was thinking about my little sister, and as soon as we got here and we saw the trees and the sun and all the positive energy from everybody that was here, everybody just being so supportive and uplifting, it really just brought me out of the sad state I was in, and now I'm really in a good mood.
To gather on this day, we ask that you bless the food and bless the hands that made it. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
And what I'm taking home with me is this whole group of folks that I'll be in communications with and watching each other grow, mentees and mentors alike.
Happy holidays. My name is Simone Mouchette, and I'm the founder and president of Resilient Young Minds. Resilient Young Minds is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is geared to serving at-risk youth who've experienced trauma, and we teach them how to be resilient on 3 levels: the personal, professional, and the social levels of resilience. Today, I want to tell you how you can support RHYME by not doing anything, by not spending an extra dollar. Did you know that when you purchase things on Amazon.com, Amazon will donate a portion of the funds to Resilient Young Minds? Well, this is how you do. If you go to smile.amazon.com and use your login credentials to sign in, it will take you to this page. Once you get on this page, it's going to ask you to choose a charity. When you get a chance to choose a charity, you want to type in Resilient Young Minds, Inc. Once you do that, you hit save, and then you can go on your shopping journey as you normally would and purchase your products. And we look forward to sharing and spending holidays with you. Please, please, please give the gift of resilience to a family who would like to purchase one of our hoodies or sweatshirts. You can do so, and that's how you can support Resilient Young Minds without having to spend a dollar. So make sure you sign up for Amazon Smile and put Resilient Young Minds as your charity. Have a happy holiday.
Don't ever overspend on anything that don't put money in your pocket.
That I need to work for it if I wanted it. I would need it to survive.
So growing up, my father did not talk about bills or money. He did give us an allowance. Because of my mother, she spoke about always having mad money. Try and have a nest egg or savings that, whoever your future partner may not know about. She talked about having things in your name and why that was important.
very good. Because right now, I'm a penny pincher. So I would always have.
Well, two things. It made me never want to get a credit card. I waited until I was like graduating undergrad to get a credit card. It made me fearful of putting my money in banks.
Try to save more than I spend. Invest what I can.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Resilient Young Minds Speak Up and Speak Out segment of our monthly workshops. Today, we are talking about money. We are talking about financial education, financial literacy, and we just finished a segment with Nick Stewart, who gave us a wealth of financial knowledge. If you were listening to Nick and he stirred up something in you and you want a further analysis of your financial state for free, please email us at resilientyoungminds@gmail.com, subject line financial literacy, and we will make that happen for you. I forgot to say that, so I wanted to make sure I let you know that. My name is Simone Mouchette. I am the founder and president of Resilient Young Minds. For those of you who don't know, Resilient Young Minds is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that serves adolescents ages 13 to 17 who have experienced trauma and provide them resources to become resilient on a personal, professional, and social levels. And we do that through workshops and mentoring. And due to the pandemic, this year, we were unable to have programming as usual, so we decided to create safe spaces where we can highlight different traumas, what traumas actually look like, and what mental health actually looks like on a day-to-day basis, to highlight that more people go through these things than we think, and that the only way to delete the stigma is if we continue to talk about it, talking about these things normal. So I'm really, really excited because today we have 3 panelists that are brave enough and willing to share their stories about how they've made mistakes with money, what they've learned about money, and information that they've gained along the way that are not really provided to us on a day-to-day basis. So I'm super, super, super excited because I feel like I'm in that boat right now, just learning about money management and about wondering why no one told me these information before I got here. So I'm going to bring the panelists in, and I want to have them introduce themselves to you. All right. So without further ado, if you're in, you can just put in the chat fire emojis, anything like that. I want to welcome David, Racine, and Evelyn.
Hi everyone. Ladies
All right.
first, though.
So I would like David, if you can introduce yourself, tell us where you're from. But before you do that, I want to let everyone know, I like my panelists, to introduce what they do. That the reason is that because a lot of times when people go through traumas and situations, looking on the outside, we look and judge and call people crazy and things of that nature. And if someone doesn't look crazy, we assume they've never been through anything, right? So I always like to share the professional successes of all the panelists right before, so that people can sit in awe and then hear the things that you went through and see how resilient you were able to get here. So I'm calling on David because he's right here closest to me to introduce yourself. Tell us what you do and what made you decide to participate in this panel today.
Well, I want to first thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, right? I thank you guys for even having this platform, because this platform is very powerful, right? And, you know, what I learned is that a lot of the things that everybody's learning right now, it was purposely not taught to you, right? And you got to understand why. Why is this stuff not taught to us, right? Before I even tell you about my selfish story, I just want to know why it's not taught to us. Think of it like you're a lion in the jungle, and you have to eat prey, and your prey could be a deer or anything like that. Why is the lion going to teach the deer how to run away, or the prey how to run away. Right? Because we are the prey. And if we don't learn how to fight against the lion, right, we'll never win. So that's the first thing. I kind of want to just leave. My name is David Jermaine. I'm a real estate broker. I'm a real estate investor. I'm a stock options trader. And we couldn't do all things through Christ. I mean, we're everything, you know, but I don't like, whenever people ask you, what do you do? I think I just do everything, you know? So that's basically my background. And I just want to lead off with the last thing, which is a financial affirmation for anybody who's listening. Okay. I want everybody to say, I have the power to get wealth. God gives me creative ideas and witty inventions. The windows of heaven are open over my life. The Lord daily loads me with the benefits. Opportunities, contracts, and promotions will find me. Unexpected increases and monies will find me. I declare increase owed to me to be released. My mind is renewed, and I am a good steward of the resources God has given me. I will not make poor financial decisions again. I will live in the overflow. All my bills are paid. My bank accounts are full. My debts are canceled and paid in full. I am the lender and not the borrower.
Amen. Thank you for that, David. Racine, can you please introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and what made you decide to speak on this panel today?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Simone, for inviting me to be a part of this panel. I think what you're doing with Resilient Young Minds is amazing. And I thank you for edifying our young people and families in our communities. So to my fellow panelists, David and Evelyn, hello. I hope all is well. To everyone, my name is Racine Rowland. I've worked in real estate for over 10 years, from construction, procurement, leasing, and property management. In 2013, I became unemployed from work injuries. So some key things that Nick said during his first segment was to save. And I managed to live off of my savings my first year out of work. So I just want to share a little bit of the background right there. So working in real estate, I decided to be on this panel because I too am learning a lot from Nick and from everyone else's story. I know David's story very well. We even worked together for a short period of time, and I am, I'm still learning. I'm learning to invest right now, and I have been diligent recently with managing my budget. So I'm here because I want to share with our young people and others, even though you may not be where you thought you would be. I'm 36 years old. 10 years ago, I thought I'd be much further along. I actually thought I'd be a millionaire by now, and I'm not limiting myself. So I'm here to encourage myself and others that you can do, the things that you're dreaming of, and it will come to pass. It will happen as long as you're committed and you're diligent in the process. So that's why I'm here.
All right, thank you, and we're happy to have you. And Evelyn, can you please introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and why you decided to speak with us today?
Well, hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Evelyn Jones, and what I do is I'm a school operations manager. So I am what you would call probably like the backbone of a school, or someone that you normally don't think of when you think of, people who work in a school. And the reason why I joined this panel today is to just give back, give out information, and also receive information.
All right, I know that's right. I want to receive information too. I hear you. So the first question that I have, but before I get into that, everyone that's watching, just make sure you write a comment in chat. Make sure you're engaged with us because we do have a raffle. We are raffling off a rhyme swag that was actually created by one of our panelists, Miss Evelyn Jones. So just make sure that you're engaged with us, that you're commenting. You might see your comments show up on the screen, just so the panelists know that they need to feel the love, right? And that's the way that we're gonna be able to see what you're saying, see what you're thinking, and feel your love. All right, so the first question that I wanna ask, and any panelist can start, the question is, what was the first encounter and or lesson you learned about money, and who was it from?
I'll start first. Well, the first encounter I had with money was, of course, with my parents. You know, as a child, you know, you see certain things that you want, and you always hear your parents say, like, oh, money doesn't grow on trees. And I'm like, okay, but I want this. And so they instilled the value in me of, you know, just working hard and pretty much purchasing the things that you want, but they also instilled the value in me of saving and just being prepared for pretty much any and everything. I want to say a formal introduction to money was actually a class in my high school with Mr. I'll never forget his name, Mr. Mulvaney. He taught us how to budget. He taught us about credit cards, a checking account, how to balance a checkbook. And I think that's something that, you know, we need to bring back into schools.
%, I agree. David?
All right, so I grew up in the hood like most people, right? Unfortunately, I grew up in East Flatbush during when Brooklyn or New York City wasn't the New York City that you know today. Before we have $1 million homes and $2 million homes, right? So the drug dealers and the people in the streets were the ones that taught me about money and, you know, the flashy cars and the jewelry. You could think about New Jack City. That was the era that I grew up in. And that was, you know, because I was born in the 70s. And unfortunately, you know, even though I'm the son of an immigrant, my mother's from Jamaica, my father's from Haiti, you know, nobody really talked about money, you know, at the dinner table, right? Which is a huge problem. You know, growing up, my mom used to say, you know, money is the root of all evil. You know, you used to hear all of these things like, you know, you have more money, more problems, and all of these cliches that understand, you know, it's our relationship towards money and where we come from. And growing up poor and on food stamps and welfare and living, you know, sharing my bed with my brother, my brother, and living in one room, you know, it kind of gave me part of the coin. And then all of a sudden, here's the beautiful thing about life, right? Time. We all have time. And anything can happen that could change your whole life and change your whole perspective about money or life, right? And I got a settlement. I got hit by a car. So thank God I don't look like what I've been through, you know, because the devil tried to take me out. But at least I'm allowed to tell the story now. And when I got this settlement, imagine now you get a settlement when you're like 3 years old. And now you turn 18 and you got over $100,000 in the bank. Now, if you can remember when you're 18 and nobody's talking to you about money and you get this $100,000, what do you think you're going to do with it? What's the first thing? Because we're not taught about assets or liabilities, right? And what's the first thing I bought? Back in the 80s and the 90s, actually the 90s, was the hot cars like the Acura Legends and the Nissan Maximas, if y'all know about that era. And I bought a car. Then when you buy the car, you got to buy the rims. Then you got to buy the system. I was so, you know, I didn't know better at that time. You know, I blew $90,000 4 months because nobody taught me about money. Because I'm trying to live for what? Today. If I knew what I knew right now, I would have put that money, because I think his name is Nick, the financial advisor who was on before. See, we don't know about the rule of 72. If I would have put that $90,000 18 years ago, I don't even think you understand what I'll be sitting on right now, right? But I didn't know that. But the good news is I was down to my last 10,000. And I was about to use that money again. Because when you get the cars, you gotta get the clothes, then you get the fake friends that want to hang around you and get to know you, right? And next thing you know, my mother, thank God for my mother, she said, boy, that money was supposed to be used for either college or to buy a house. We live in an apartment building. And my mother took the last 10,000 against my will. We had a joint custodial account, and she used it to put a down payment on the FHA home loan, which is where you pay 3.5% down. This is in the 90s, guys, to buy a 2-family house in an area called Park Slope for $130,000 back then. And I said to myself, my mom never did that. And that one decision, right? One decision can set you forward 20 years. One bad decision can set us back 20 years. And we know people who made one bad decision, they behind bars. One bad decision, right? And just like one good decision could bring us up. And this is why this platform is so impactful, because I hope that anybody that's listening to this, the words that come out of the stories that we share, I hope that unlocks something in your mind, because, what we should be doing is leaving our kids inheritances, right? And unfortunately, because our parents didn't know, they did the best with what they knew. They did. We can't fault them. But, I just learned of something just this past week. And I thought I knew a lot about finances. And it's called I hope everybody writes this down, because this is the jewel. I paid for this information. I'm sharing it for free. A UTMA account or a UGMA account. UGMA account. You can get it from TD Ameritrade. You get it from Charles Schwab. Those are two of the best custodial accounts. Imagine now if my mom would have bought Apple stock back in the 80s when it was just formed, or bought McDonald's stock when it was very cheap, or Starbucks, or any of these companies back when I just came out when I was 1 year old. And you can only start with like 1,000. You can start with 5,000, whatever it is. Can you imagine we give our kids, instead of a debt or a credit card company coming, as a young lady just said, and getting us into debt automatically? And just to let you know, as soon as we're born out the womb with the debt load, go to a website called the U.S. Debt. Check out what the U.S. debt is right now. And you will see each American is at least $82,000 in debt. Out the womb, before you even do anything, right? So I say that because if we gave our kids stocks at 18 that we buy today, like I have a 4-year-old son, I just bought him some stocks that when he turns, like Disney stock, or even that just came out, Airbnb just came out yesterday, right? All these stocks will be valuable, especially in a custodial account. Then there's another one called ETF, exchange traded funds. A lot of us taught to put our money save. I heard somebody say save. But here's the thing, a lot of us don't know the inflation rate. And right now, the inflation rate right now is 3%. What does that mean? That means if you put your money in the bank and it's not outperforming inflation at 3%, guess what's happening to your money, ladies and gentlemen? It's going down in value. So you have to put your money in an asset that's going to be outperforming inflation. And guess what? These ETFs that I just mentioned, believe it or not, and one of them is called ARK. It's funny that they named it the ARK, because I'm coming from biblical perspectives. Remember Noah's Ark? When Noah was talking about the flood, nobody believed him. Those who believed went on the ark, right? Well, it's called ARK, ARKW. Please write this down. I want everybody to get this. Get these exchange traded funds, ARKW. Then there's another one called ARKK. Guess what the average yield, meaning interest, you will make if you put your money in these accounts? 40%. That's since the time it's been incepted. Guess what? This year, you won't even believe me, that account made 151% interest this year alone. Why are we putting our money in the bank? Because we don't know better. The bank takes our free money that we work hard for. Guess what they do with the money that you and I all work hard for, and we give to them for free? They invest it. They give out mortgages, loans, student loans, business loans, credit cards, where they're charging 18 to 30% interest. And then they say at the end of the month, here's what, 0.02% interest for putting your hard-earned money that they leveraged our time. They leverage our money. So we got to be just like the banks and learn how to leverage our money and our time. That's our greatest asset.
Okay. Thank you, David. So that lesson, when you got that settlement money and spent it on the first card, that was your first real hard lesson in money management. Got it. All right, Racine, what was your first lesson or encounter with money, and how did that impact you?
So my first experience was not necessarily with money, with dollars, but with credit. My first year in college as a freshman at John Jay College in New York City, my mom was like, you can get a credit card, sign up for a credit card. So I did. I wasn't too sure. I didn't know too much about credit. And growing up in my household, and really in my family, there wasn't any discussions about financial education or money management or credit. So here I am, I sign up for this credit card, and my mom tells me, I'll pay the bill. So what would a freshman do? A freshman in college, you go buy whatever it is that you want, use up your credit, and your parents pay the bill. And so here I was living freely with an unlimited amount of credit on my card. And eventually, I transferred colleges and living on my own. I did have a job when I first signed up for my first credit card, but I had a parent who said she would pay for it. And so after a while, that changed. So I was given the responsibility, and the credit card was in my name. The bill was in my name to my address. I had to pay that bill. So moving forward, I decided, I was like, my mother said, she could pay this bill. And she didn't pay the bill once she gave me that responsibility. So can you imagine what happened over the next 3 years? My credit score went down. I went in debt, consumer debt. Lo and behold, about maybe 5 years later, I actually paid off all of my consumer debt to Capital One. So I'm putting it all out there. So for folks who don't know anything about money management or credit management and just checking your credit score annually, it's important that you check your score, look at the report, make sure you know what you're signing up for. If it's a responsibility that you cannot take on, don't do it. When in doubt, don't move, don't do, and just wait, make sure you educate yourself. And so for me, I just thought I looked at it as free money. And moving forward, like once I took that responsibility with paying the bill and really looking at how credit affects my money, my life, really, because if I wanted to invest in anything, I need to make sure that I have a good credit score for a job. Jobs are looking at your credit score now, for an apartment, for a home. And over the years, I built my credit back up. So that was a very important it was an essential financial tool that I needed to learn before I signed up for that credit card. And that was something that was missing. So I just went out and had fun like David did with that $90,000, my credit card. So I'm grateful that I did learn early on, like in my early 20s. That was a time, it wasn't okay, but it was, because I was able to repair my credit. And that was my first real hard lesson about money management and credit management.
Thank you so much for being so open and honest and raw and just real. And I like the fact that you guys kind of consistently brought up relationship, the word relationship. What is our relationship with money? And so that's important to me to highlight, because my next question is about home, right? A lot of the lessons that we learn first is at home. That's our first school. Our parents are our first teachers, right? So my next question is, how did your household or your environment growing up impact the way you viewed and managed money as an adult? So for example, for me, my mom was very pay the bills. That's it. She worked, she paid the bills. She worked, she paid the bills. I never really went on, not never really, I never went on like a vacation. We never did anything extra. She literally worked and paid bills, and that's it. And we weren't living in like a fancy apartment. We lived in a basement apartment in Canarsie. And that's what my view was. You work and you pay bills. Her biggest fear was debt. Like, she didn't want to be in debt. So whatever she worked, she put into her money. So that kind of created a fear of debt for me too, because she acquired debt, she filed bankruptcy, she did all these different things, which I learned now were poor money management. But because I saw the consequences of those things, I now had a fear of debt. I had a fear to spend money. I refuse, like when we talk about investments and risks, as I'm learning it, my anxiety is getting high, because although I understand the concept, that trauma, that fear that, oh my God, I might end up in debt and I'm not going to pay bills and the bill collector is going to be calling my phone, and that definitely impacts my view and my struggles that I have with releasing money in order to make money. So what was your impact or your environment at home when it came to money and money management? Racine, you can start this time. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, with fear, there was definitely a fear of money management for me. I didn't actually know about until recently. I want to say 3 years ago, when I really thought about, okay, I want to start a ministry, I want to start a business, and I invested in hiring a business advisor and just going over budgets, and I invested in hiring a business advisor, and we looked over everything. People say, show me who your friends are and I'll show you your future, things like that. But when it comes to finances for the youth, look at your bank statement, and then you can see where you're going as far as savings or investments, whatever your dreams and goals are with your money. If you want to build wealth, just look at your bank statement. And that is like, it's going to show you where you're going. So that's something that I started years ago. I started highlighting like little things, groceries, bills, and just other miscellaneous spending habits that I had. And so I was like, okay, I thought it was good, but it really wasn't. I found ways that I actually found areas where I could save more money. And I'll share a quick story. 7 years ago, when I became unemployed, I was able to live off of about $1,800 for 7 months. I don't know if that's possible now in 2020, but not including rents or like mortgage, but just all of the other bills, food. Really, there was no entertainment. If it was free. And so I really learned how to manage my money back then. And because of my own personal pandemic, like everyone's going through a 2020 COVID-19 pandemic, but I lived my own personal pandemic in 2013. And so I realized, let me start budgeting. And I looked back at that year and I was like, wow, I can't believe I lived off of this small amount of money. Like, what have I been doing with all of my money? I've been traveling, I'm spending money on entertainment and eating out, dining out with friends and colleagues. So there were areas where I could save and invest in my future, and sacrifice in those areas. So just to get back to the fears, like I had to realize like budgeting my funds, my income, and I would always keep like 2 streams of incomes at various times. That was key for me to live off of my savings while I was unemployed, and just think of other strategies or ways to invest for my future. So growing up, there was definitely a fear of like looking at bills coming in the mail, checking my bank balance. I don't know if anybody's ever experienced that. I've never seen in my family, whether it was my grandparents or parents or even my older sibling, like checking their checkbook or their bank balance and discussing it at the kitchen table on Sunday nights, like you see in movies, but in reality, I didn't see it in real life either. So there was no financial education in the home. So I decided after I got that credit card, let me go to some financial workshops, so I can educate myself. I'm often reading books about investing and assets, angel investors, and just different ways I can save. So yeah, thank you for allowing me to share.
No, thank you for sharing. Good stuff. David, how did your household environment or schooling impact the way you view or manage money as an adult?
I mean, just like most kids that grew up in the hood, you go to the worst school districts. So in the school districts, they're not even teaching you about basic things. I find it very interesting, even though I only did 2 years of school, my sister, who goes to an Ivy League school, right, graduated. When it comes down to money, I know way more than my sister when it comes down to money. And the reason for that, one of my mentors, and I hope you guys study, his name is Jim Rohn, right? Jim Rohn said, formal education will earn you a living, while self-education will make you a fortune. See, formal education is like math, science, English, social studies, your basic broad education, right? Which we all need. But none of those skills are going to be valuable in the workplace or in the marketplace, right? And we all got to read books like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, by Robert Kiyosaki. These books unlocked something in me because it talked about the wealth quadrants. And you got to understand the tax codes were meant for business owners and investors. If you're not a business owner and you're not an investor, guess what? Uncle Sam is taking a bare minimum of 30 to 40% in taxes right off the bat. But if you're a business owner or you're an investor, you can lower your taxable income. Warren Buffett, who paid his secretary, she pays more percentages in taxes as a W-2 worker than he as a billionaire pays in taxes. I know you guys heard of Amazon, Jeff Bezos. Do you know that Jeff Bezos just opened up a warehouse in East New York, Brooklyn? He opened up a whole bunch of warehouses and they opened up in here in Manhattan. Do you know how much he's paying in taxes? Yet he made his net worth went up over $40 billion this year. But yes, how much he's paying in taxes? You see that right there? That's a zero. Because we don't understand these wealth strategies, because we're taught to go to school, get a job, and then work for somebody else. But guess what? The job will only pay you what the job is worth. They will never pay you who you're worth. And this is where we have to bet on ourselves, right? I can't believe I stayed at a job for 15 years, right? I was making $30,000. And I was actually sufficed with that. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go on a vacation. I couldn't do anything, right? So the day that I got laid off in 2013, and I went and got my real estate license, and I failed the test twice, passed it on the third time. And I remember my first day in the office, I saw a girl by the name of Louisa Mathis close 3 deals, and she made $10,000 in one day in real estate. And I said, whoa, she made in one day what it would take me 6 months to make on my former job, right? And we don't understand the rules of the game, and that's the reason why so much of us are behind the 8 ball. Basically, Warren Buffett said, if you don't find a way to have money work for you, you will work for money for the rest of your life. And that's not the way God designed us to be. We have to learn how to make our money work for us, but we don't know how. That's why I shared with you guys earlier those ETFs, those exchange traded funds, because that will allow you to have your money working for you. I wish I would have known about these things how long ago, but I'm sharing with whoever is willing to listen now, right? Because these are the type of things that we need to know in order to not be in the rat race. I kind of shared something. I don't know if we could get it on the screen, right? And it was basically the rule at just 10% interest, if you just invested $3,000, right, at the age of 15, what this would look like by the time you're like 65 years old, right? So it's called the time value of money. So if you can blow it up, because I don't know if everybody can see, right? And but if you can see here, if you started just at 15, investing $3,000 a year, do you know what $3,000 a year is? That's $240 a month. And if anybody tells me that they cannot invest $240 a month, I'm telling you they're lying. Because I see people invest in Jordans. I know that right now the PlayStation 5 just came out and they cost $500 and you can't find it anywhere. But yet, if you go on StockX, because it's sold out, people are paying $1,200 for a PlayStation 5. And that's without the video games, right? But if we invest $3,000 a year, every year, you see how the money compounds? This is where it shows your money is working for you. And if you can go scroll up, right? I don't know if it can blow up or not. I don't know how to blow it up here. But you can see there's 3. If this person started at 15, another person started 4 years later, getting 10% return, right? That means they're investing in something like a mutual fund or a life insurance policy and get an IUL, Index Universal Life. It goes, I mean, I can't tell you, but somebody mentioned when to get a life insurance policy. Get them when your kids are out the womb. They don't have to pay for a health check, because once you turn 18, those policies get even higher, right? And then if you see another person start at the age of 27, and if you can see, if you can scroll up on the chart, you can see how much they'll make. I don't know how to scroll this up, right? You would see how much they made by the time they're 65. Because guess what? A lot of us are going to work 20. God gives us maybe about 30 to 40 maybe 60 working years. But remember, the first 20 is just 0 to 18 or 20. You're just learning life. So your working years are from really like 21 until you're about 65. And if we don't utilize that time wisely or invest wisely, look what happens if you would have invested from the time you was 15 years old. You would have had $1.6 million on a $15,000 investment just for only 5 years. 5 years of investing, you would have had 1.6 if you let your money compound. The second person invested $24,000. 4 years later, they had to invest a little more, but only had 1.5. And then here's somebody who invested at the age of 27. They had to invest $117,000, and yet they only had 1.34. So it's time value, how long you have your money working for you. These are some of the principles that we didn't learn as kids and as adults. I heard the gentleman say that a lot of us don't even know the rule of 72. If we keep our money in the bank at 0.02% interest, it would take 834 years to see your money double. I'll repeat that again. If you keep your money in the bank at 0.02% interest, you will see your money double in 834 years. Who wants to, how long can you live? That's not going to work. So we have to change the system. And this is the way to change that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. I really like that visual. You really got me because I thought about how much I saved. And I always try to put $500 a month into my savings account. So when you said $240, I'm like, that's one check a month that I could invest in this way. So that was such a really clear view in how you put it. I really, we really appreciate that. So Evie, the same question, and I'm going to pack it with you with the second question because we're running out of time and we want to make sure we give the audience an opportunity to ask you guys questions. So how was your experience growing up? No, and I would like to know, what advice would you give someone that you never received that you wish you had about money?
Oh, wow. I am just going to jump into like the second part of your question. Money management advice. Listen, just listen and hear out everyone's story. Take in everything as much as you can. I would say definitely listen to podcasts, read books, pay attention to the news and what's going on, because that also affects the money. Also, learn how to make different sacrifices in your life. So David mentioned that, there are people out there buying a PS5. Forego that PS5. Invest the money.
Awesome. Thank you, Evelyn. All right, so this is our final question. If David or Racine has something to add and you have some advice that you'd like to share, this is your time. So everyone that are watching, this is your time to put your questions in the comment box. I'm going to give a little heads up. And then I'm going to give a little reflection on everything that I've heard as we segue into our Q&A. So what advice would you give? Go ahead, Rachel.
Create an emergency budget because you'll need cash immediately for emergencies. And 2, invest. David shared some great tips for investing, so I would definitely recommend you look into investing.
David, do you have any advice that you wish someone gave you about money?
Yes. So the first advice, please read Think and Grow Rich. All the millionaires and billionaires of this world read that book at least 5 times. That book will change your mindset towards money and how wealth is created in this world, right? Invest in yourself, first and foremost. We invest in every other thing, but right here. We invest in clothes, we invest in shoes, everything, houses, cars, but we don't, and we still using old school, just like the iPhone. If you have an iPhone, whatever, not iPhone or Android, you know how to have an operating system, and you're still using the same operating system from 15 years ago, 30 years ago. That doesn't work in 2020, right? Guys, we are right now at the cusp of change, right now. And if you position yourself today, whether you invest in things like cryptocurrency, because right now the dollar is about to be out of here, right? If you can position yourself in crypto, if you could position yourself in the stock market, if you could position yourself in real estate, gold, right? You will set the generation, you will set up, because you got to now, I'm not just building for myself or my son, I'm building for my grandkids and their grandkids, right? Because that's the only way we're ever going to really shift the culture, because the lack of money is the root of all evil. Not the love of money. The lack of money is the rule of all evil. How would you feel if you could send your kids to college and not have debt and owe $300,000? They could start off. You know how many clients I work, because I'm a real estate broker, where they can't even buy a house and they went to these Ivy League schools because their debt to income ratio is so high, they can't even buy a house. But yet they're still making over 6 figures. So those are the things I would say. Believe in yourself, start a business, have an online business. Everything is going towards online. Start an online business. Listen, study successful people. There are millionaires out here that are 14 years old. There are millionaires out here that are 14 years old. Study these people. Just Google them if you don't believe me. That's all I have to say. Just also trust God, even when you don't understand, because faith without works is dead, right? But you have to believe in yourself. God rewards our faith. I believe. Believe in yourself, even if you don't understand. Faith, Martin Luther King said, faith is taking the first step without seeing the whole staircase. So just take that first step. That's all I have to say. God bless everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So right now I'm going to just jump into the question and answer piece so we can get as many questions answered. So Annuola is asking, she says her daughter is graduating from high school this year and she's thinking about opening a money market account for her. What do you think about that, and what suggestions on how to start her off?
If you don't mind, I don't mean to jump in to take over here, but for that question, I gave the blueprint and the answer. And you please set up your daughter with a UTMA account and get an ETF, exchange traded fund, because that's going to outperform a regular money market account. Because I think even with a money market account, you're not even earning maybe 0.5%, right? Please,
she got it.
I recommend ARKW, ARKK. You'll be great. 40% return, bare minimum.
Awesome. I think she did get the message, because she wrote back, this information is helpful. Just put in an application for the UTMA account with my Ameritrade. So we just helped somebody out today. Awesome.
Powerful. That's another generation saved.
Another thing, what I want to ask is that we talked about in moments about inflation and preparing and making sure we invest in assets as opposed to just throwing our money in a savings account, right? So my question is, how do you begin asset acquisition?
Can you repeat that? It kind of broke up a little bit.
How do you begin asset acquisition?
Asset acquisitions as far as open up a brokerage account, like I mentioned before. TD Ameritrade is a great one, because they have Think or Swim, which is a way where you can start learning how to invest with paper money, meaning you're not investing real money, and you can use that brokerage platform to start buying commodities. You can buy gold. You can buy anything in any market across the world with that brokerage account online. If you use a broker, you're gonna have to pay $6.95 a trade or something like that. But there's so many things right now, like there's Earn Your Leisure. If you guys never heard of Earn Your Leisure, it's a podcast. You could go look them up online. I'm telling you, if you don't want to pay for a financial advisor, self-educate yourself. Earn Your Leisure, one of the best platforms out there.
Awesome. Aliza wants to know, what's the best single piece of advice you can get rid of debt? And this is for anyone.
I don't want to dominate here.
I would suggest doing the snowball method. I would list all your debts from smallest to highest, and then tackle the smallest one first, and then pay the minimum on the remaining ones. And then once the smallest one is done with, apply that money to the next amount and keep going forward.
But remember though, pay yourself first before you pay the debt, because that debt will always be around. But pay yourself first. And what I mean by that, put 40% towards yourself, and then divvy up amongst paying all the bills. But pay yourself first.
Okay.
Excellent advice.
All right. How do you save money, invest, and still enjoy your life? That's from Summer.
Anybody? All right. You see, going back to, because this, I get passionate about this because, I just understand what it is, So how would you feel if what you invested in paid for your vacation and you didn't have to pay any money out of your pocket? How would that vacation feel? It feels a little different when your assets are paying for your vacations and your liabilities. But when you're paying for it out of your pocket, it don't feel as good, right? Also, like we was talking about credit. Now, pay everything with a credit card so you can get, especially with points, but don't pay more. I mean, when I say pay everything with a credit card, please understand, don't just put everything on the credit card and then don't pay it. Leverage cash, because cash is not, because now I pay everything with my cards so I can get points. I'm going to be paying these bills, these residual bills anyway. I pay on my credit card, I get points on it, and then guess what? I get a vacation through my points using whose money? Money that I already spent that I was going to use to pay bills that I was always going to pay anyway. It just feels different when you go on a hotel and you know you didn't pay for it. Or you pay for it paying bills that you was going to pay anyway.
That is so true. I just learned doing that a couple of years ago, how to accrue points and go on vacations. And you're so right. It just hits different. So thank you everyone for participating. We are now out of time. David, Evelyn, Racine, David, the passion. We appreciate you so much.
Glory.
I'm just thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys coming in, being authentic, being real, sharing your story, sharing where you fell, sharing where you grew. We really appreciate you. If you could just share your social media handles so that people can follow you if they have other questions, if they want to reach out to you, that would be great. And then we're going to call on the raffle winners in just a moment. So David, tell us what your social media handle is so we know. Evelyn, Racine, let us know how we can follow you and keep in touch with you.
Simple. My IG or AKA Instagram is proven_winners. Proven, PROVEN _winners, WINNERS.
My social media platforms is exactly how my name is spelled, Racine Roland, RACINE ROLAND, on Instagram and Facebook.
My Instagram platform is eSheaJo. It's actually a breakup of my full name, ESHEAJO.
All right. So there you have it. There's their social media. That's how you can handle it. Reach out to them if you would like to reach out to them. If you're not following us, we are Resilient Young Minds, RYM_INC, and that's on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you to everyone that's watching. If you would like financial advice, if you want a one-on-one financial analysis for more information on steps on how to improve your personal finances and your financial growth, you can do that by emailing us at resilientyoungminds@gmail.com and put financial literacy in the subject line. We are dedicated to getting this information out to as many people as we can and support as many as we can. So right now I'm going to bring in Karian, who is going to tell us who our raffle winner is. So if you've been engaged throughout the session, writing in the chat, writing questions, sending love, we want to send you some love back. And we're raffling off one of our I'm So Resilient t-shirt, because if you made it through 2020, you are so resilient. So Karian, if you can just come in and tell us who won a rhyme shirt today. Karian?
I'm sorry, I was on mute because our winner today was Shakaya.
Shakaya, wow, one of our Rhyme alumni, one of our Rhyme Mentee alumni. Okay, she hyped. So Shakaya, inbox us your size or text me for your new rhyme shirt. Thank you for participating, everyone. We really, really appreciate it. Just a reminder, if you have an Amazon account, sign up for Amazon Smile. You can add us as a charity, and every time you shop, you don't have to do anything extra, but every time you shop, Amazon will donate a portion of those funds to Resilient Young Minds. Today is the last day. We're also selling sweaters that say I'm so resilient. If you want a sweater, you have until 11:59 tonight to purchase your sweater. We'll drop the link in the chat if you need it. Thank you again. We hope that you learned something today. Make sure you share this video. It will be available on YouTube later today. Share it with a friend. We appreciate you. Have a happy holiday and happy new year.